Alright then, so now we can finally start coding this application. So the first thing we want to do is spin up a local development server to be running in the background so we can preview it in a browser. So make sure in the terminal you're in the correct directory, which is ninja-smoothies, this thing right here. Then to run that server, we'll say npm run dev. Press enter, that's going to spin up the local server for you. Alright, so when that's running, we can cross off this terminal and view it in a browser, and it should look something like this. This is the default application that comes when we use the Vue CLI to create this project. So then, we see our root component is right here. I'm just going to clean up some of this first of all. We don't need that. We don't need the logo up here either. We'll save that, view it in a browser, and we should see, if we refresh over here, that update as well. Okay, cool. So the first thing I'd like to do is create a Navbar component that runs across the top of this page. So to do that, let's right click over here and go to new file. We'll call this navbar.view. And then inside here, we need a template first of all. And inside this template, we'll do a div with a class of Navbar. Now, we've installed the Materialize CSS and also the Google Font CSS library. So now we can use those different structural classes or utility classes inside this template so we don't have to focus too much on our own CSS. So I'm not going to go into too much depth as to what each class does because again, this is not a Materialize CSS course. However, I'll give you a brief overview of the new ones as we use them. So first of all, we need a nav, and this is going to have a few different classes. So the first class is going to be nav-extended. So this is a utility class, and that's going to position the nav at the top of the page. Then we need also a class called indigo. That will be the background color, not indigo. And then we'll also use darken-2. That just darkens the background color a little bit. Okay, so inside the nav, we want a div now with a class of nav-content. Again, a structural class. So inside this div, first of all, we'll do our first router link, and that's going to sit on the left hand side. We need a to attribute, but just equal it to nothing at the minute because we don't really know which component we're going to link this to. So inside here, we'll do a title. So we'll say span.nav-title, and inside that we'll say Ninja Smoothies. All right, so now we need underneath that an anchor tag. And the reason I'm doing an anchor tag here and not a router link directly is because I want to apply some Materialize CSS to this anchor tag first of all. So this is for stylistic purposes only. So this will have a few different classes. Inside, we'll leave the href attributes blank. We don't want this to go anywhere, but we'll do a class attribute. This will be equal to btn-floating. This is a style of button. Then btn large, just to make it larger. Then halfway-fab. That is going to push it down halfway beyond the boundary of our nav. We'll see that in a minute, and then we'll make it pink. Now, inside this, we do want a router link because it is going to link somewhere. So we'll say router link, and we'll set this equal to something. So eventually, this is going to link to our add smoothie component, but for now, we'll leave it blank. So inside here, I want an icon by the Google library, the Google Font library. So the way we do that is by first of all doing an I tag. Then we'll do a class inside that, and every icon must have a class of material-icons. Now we enter some text in here depending on what icon we want. Now I want a plus sign, which means I add in add. So the Google Font library is going to take that and turn it into a plus sign. If we wanted a trash can, for example, we'd say delete. Okay, so we want the plus sign, which is add. So I think that will pretty much do for the template. The next thing we need is a script tag down here with an object inside. The name of this component is going to be navbar. We'll also do our data function just in case we need any data later on. So this returns an empty object. Okay, finally, we'll do a style tag in case we need to just edit any of the styles that we've applied up here already with these classes. So let's save it, and then we need to import it into the root component over here. So first of all, we'll say import navbar from, and then it's @ symbol, first of all, to say go to the root directory, this source folder right here, then /components, we want to jump into that components folder, then / navbar. Okay, now we need to register it inside this component by saying components is an object, and we want to register the navbar component. Okay, so now we've done that, we can nest it inside this template. Now I want to nest it above the rest of the content. The rest of the content is going to load in through this router view later on. So we'll nest it around about there, just above. All right, cool. So if we save this now, hopefully we should see that in the browser, and we do. And this is already looking a lot better. So there's one more style I want to add onto this, and that's just to bring this in a little bit to the right. So there's a bit of padding in the nav. So to do that, I'll go to the navbar component, just go to the style tag, and I'll say navbar, nav. So that's going to target this element right here. And we're going to give this some padding. And the padding will be 0 top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right. So a nice, easy style. Brings in the button a little bit, brings in the title a little bit as well. So there we go. There's our navbar component sorted. We'll readdress the links later when we can do. But in the next video, we'll look at getting rid of all of this junk right here and replacing it with our own index component.